Well, the oil giant ExxonMobil is facing mounting criticism over its handling of the cleanup of a large oil spill in Montana. On Friday night, an oil pipeline ruptured beneath the Yellowstone River near the city of Billings, leaking as much as 42,000 gallons of crude oil. Initially, ExxonMobil downplayed the incident, saying it would only affect 10 miles of the river. But state officials say the spill has already stretched over 240 miles to near the North Dakota border. In addition, records from the Department of Transportation indicate that it took Exxon 56 minutes to seal the leak, nearly twice as long as what the company officials had publicly said. The spill's cleanup has also been hampered because the Yellowstone River is at flood stage. At spots, the river is flowing too high and swiftly for crews to reach some of the damaged area.
The oil spill occurs at a time when the Obama administration is considering approving a massive new oil pipeline called the Keystone XL that would carry corrosive tar sands oil from Alberta, Canada, to the Gulf of Mexico. The pipeline would cross the Yellowstone River as well as the Ogallala Aquifer, the largest freshwater aquifer in the United States. We're joined by two guests. Alexis Bonogofsky is a family farmer who lives in Billings, Montana, near the Blue Creek area along the Yellowstone River. She's working as the tribal land senior coordinator for the National Wildlife Federation, briefly hospitalized on Monday after suffering from what doctors diagnosed as acute hydrocarbon exposure. And joining us in Washington, D.C. is Anthony Swift, policy analyst for the Natural Resources Defense Council, specializing in energy issues. Let's go to Alexis first in Montana. Can you describe what's happened?
It's been kind of overwhelming. The last 5 days has been like nothing I've ever experienced before. I woke up early Saturday morning and I walked down to my pastures to do chores, and I'd heard that the river was going to flood, and so I wanted to check on everything. And I walked down to our bottom pastures and all I could smell was oil. And so I got back up to the house, put on my waders, and went down because the water was so deep, and our whole summer pasture and our hay pastures were just covered in oil. A lot of globs of oil, but also a lot of sheen that covered the water. And I had not heard nothing about this, so I checked our local paper on my phone, and I saw that there had been an oil spill in the Yellowstone River and that people upstream had been evacuated. It has just been nonstop ever since then, trying to get answers.
And the impact of the fumes on you?
Yeah. So all day Saturday, I was out in the oil taking pictures and video of what has happened to our place. And Sunday, I was out with film crews, with journalists, and checking on our place. And then Monday, I took another film crew down. And the fumes just, Monday morning, it just hit me and I got dizzy, nauseous, headache, felt like I was going to pass out. I've never passed out before in my life. I've actually never gone to the emergency room in my life. And I started to get really unfocused. And so I had my mom drive me into the hospital because my husband was actually heading to a press conference to confront the president of ExxonMobil Pipeline Company.
You got a meeting with the president of ExxonMobil?
I think unwillingly on his part. On Sunday, we actually got our first meeting with him. We went to the Crown Plaza Hotel downtown Billings where they had their response center set up. And there was a press conference going on. And so my husband and I went to, because we had no information. They kept sending us to a hotline with operators who didn't know anything. We couldn't get a hold of anyone from Exxon. And our local officials kept telling us to call Exxon. And then we would call Exxon and all we would get was an operator. So we went down to the response center to the press conference, and they actually tried to kick us out of the press conference. There was a security guard from Exxon there. He told us that we were not allowed without press credentials. So we kept pressing them, and finally one of their PR people said, well, the president of the pipeline company would like to meet with you privately. So that was the first time we met with him. The second time was another press conference that the public wasn't invited to, and my husband just showed up there because we still weren't getting the answers we needed.
Now, could you tell me, before this incident occurred, what did you know? Did you even know this pipeline was there? And did you know how deep it was? Because obviously the reports have come out now that it was only about, what, 8 feet below the riverbed. Tell us what information you had before the incident occurred.
No, I mean, most people around here don't think about that sort of thing because it's such an industrial town. We have 3 refineries. We have pipelines running everywhere, and we've got a coal-fired power plant in town. It's a very industrialized corridor of the Yellowstone River. You know, so in the back of your head, you know that there's lots of pipelines. I mean, I have a natural gas pipeline running under my farm right now. But no, I mean, this particular pipeline wasn't something that people, you know, really thought about at all. So when it ruptured, I think everyone was shocked by it because, you know, I guess in the back of people's minds, they knew that there must be pipelines running under the Yellowstone, but, you know, it wasn't something that people talked about or knew about.
And the relationship between the rising water, Alexis, and the pipeline, why you think the pipeline broke, why you think there's been this massive oil spill?
Well, I have my own reasons of why I think it broke. I think, you know, from what we've seen from Department of Transportation records is that there's been over, I think, 7 or 8 safety violations of this particular pipeline in the last year. But the rising waters puts a lot of pressure on pipelines that are underneath water systems. And a lot of debris is coming down the river right now because it's so high. So it's knocking down cottonwoods off the banks of the river, rocks, and, you know, really heavy objects are being thrown down the river right now. And if over and over again, if something's hitting the bottom of the river, it probably, you know, ruptured the pipeline. And there was no casing on this pipeline. It was built in 1991, and there was no casing around it. So it was just the pipeline. So it had no protection around it. And, you know, initially Exxon said that it, you know, in Department of Transportation documents, it said that it was 12 feet under the riverbed, but in reality it was 6 to 8 feet under the riverbed.